Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Football.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Purple Daily comments from YouTube, Zolgad and Declan Goff. Of course, presented by our friends at Surly Brewing and also TCL TV. Enjoy more with TCL. Hopefully on Sunday, you're watching the big game with a Surly in your hand and a TCL hanging from the wall. All right, Declan Goff, let's get right to it. Comments from YouTube involving the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes, a lot of Kirk Cousins comments from our YouTube page. If you want your comment answered on an episode of Comments from YouTube, we also do this show twice a week. So we do it on Mondays as a secondary show. We do it for Saturdays as well over the weekend. So if you'd like your question answered, hit us up on the YouTube channel. You can also tweet at us or send us some feedback through the Score North app, a central hub for everything we do. Let's start with this one because there's a lot of Kirk Cousins comments here. I want to start with this one actually from the Harry O Show. I say we do what the Saints did with Brees and Hill at quarterback. Bring Mond in to groom him for next year. Let Cousins go after his contract to get rid of cap space and send Hunter and Barr on their way. I'm sure it will take a few others and agree that they'll have to get rid of at least a half dozen stars. I believe the Saints, they ate a lot of money because Brees retired and they were kicking that can down the road for a long time. Sure. But what do you think about the New Orleans Saints model of just letting this ride and accepting that, hey, this cap might hurt us for a little bit, but also when we move on from Kirk, we might take some lumps at quarterback as well?
I would rather start with the new era for the Vikings right now. Part of the problem with drawing comparisons to Brees is that the Drew Brees experiment, which obviously became successful, won a Super Bowl. There's a good case to be made that it completely worked. The Cousins thing didn't. Do I want to let this ride for another season on that cap hit? And I guess my point is, what's the purpose? What's going to benefit this franchise as much as it possibly can now? And I think that is trying to get a high draft pick for Kirk, go with a bridge quarterback, continue to develop Mond. That's fantastic. That's all fine. But I don't see the appeal in trying to make this Kirk thing work. I don't get that because I don't want to, under any circumstances, extend him. And look, the Vikings, rightfully so, took their shot, didn't they? Mm-hmm. 2018, they took their shot. It lasted 18, 19, 20, 21. This is a perfect time to change. And that doesn't mean that you have to be bad for 4 or 5 years. What it does mean is you need to, at quarterback and a bunch of positions, start to look at what does the future hold. I feel like we have this weird thing about, no, we got to bring guys back. No, you got to bring guys back. This is football. Careers are brief. I am far more interested in Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell hitting a reset button now and starting to transition to how can you get this team as good as possible, as quickly as possible. And I don't think bringing guys back does that.
Yeah, and the Vikings fans, I think, too, have to accept that, hey, it was a shot and it didn't work. And to be honest, Drew Brees was on a completely different level with the Saints and was a top 3-5 quarterback for basically almost a decade. Kirk on his best day has never really been above the 10th best quarterback in the NFL and also didn't have the continued success that the Saints mostly had. And look, the Saints had that rough year where post the Bounty Gate firings and they lost draft picks and they were middling. They were 7-9 for 3 years in a row before they popped up for the last few years of Drew Brees' career. But I don't think the parallels there are necessarily the same. But I understand what they are trying to do, where they went to Taysom Hill and then they tried Trevor Siemian. I believe they had 5 different guys start at quarterback for them in 2021. And it was brutal, but they also still were a competitive football team for the majority of the season.
And I seem to recall that before he tore up his knee, Jameis Winston was playing pretty well for them, correct?
Yeah.
And so, they did bring in a guy. The problem is, once he got hurt, they fell off. But, I don't see comparisons between, a Drew Brees or a Russell Wilson and Kirk. I think it's a whole different bin of quarterback play.
Funny enough, this commenter is named The Saints. He is not affiliated with the New Orleans Saints, or maybe he is. I guess can't rule it out. He says, restructure Kirk, give him $15 to $8 million a year, and a default the bonus to default the bonus money to the end of his contract and sign him for 5 to 6 years. He has proven to be durable. Look what happened when he tested for positive and just missed the one game. And Jefferson and Thielen and receivers like him otherwise would risk trying to find someone, and it ain't going to happen. What do you think about giving Kirk $15 to $18 million a year? And if you presented that option to Kirk, hey, Kirk, this is what we can do for you. You have made a bunch of money in your career, honestly, in an astronomical amount of money for being a slightly above average quarterback, to be honest. If you're serious about helping us compete for a Super Bowl, here's what we can do. And if you by taking this offer, we can help build up the offensive line. We can give you all these resources that you have not had in Minnesota or even in Washington before. Would Kirk be interested in doing something like that?
No, he's not going to take that drastic of per year hit. And the second thing is he likes to do short-term contracts. So no, I don't think he would take that. I think if you went to him tomorrow and said, let's give you, which by the way would take him to, I believe, Declan, near the age of 40. If you went to Kirk Cousins tomorrow and said, we will give you 15 to 18 million per season, 5 years. I think he says, no, let's keep it at 3 and let's raise the average annual value of said contract up. So I think it's a non-starter from a discussion standpoint.
You know, I'm intrigued by this. I'm mostly ready to be completely done with Kirk Cousins and just wash it out and start with someone new. But 15 to 18 million a year, if you told me that it will never be higher, his cap, it will never be higher than 18 million over the next, let's call it 5 seasons. I could potentially be persuaded into seeing that. Because also I think if let's say you sign him that contract, and I know he's kind of saying put the default money at the end of that contract. So the Vikings still would have to eat some money towards the end of this contract, right? That's what he's also
backload it
and saying too. So you can still potentially, even in 3 years, get out from it if you wanted to move on. I'm intrigued by this. I wouldn't rule it out.
If you don't think that Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell can find a better QB than Spielman did, fire him right now.
Yeah.
Just fire him. We are operating as if it's the same staff. You fired Spielman, I think, in large part because he couldn't find one of these guys. You are now banking on your 2 new guys can do it. So if you think, we can't improve on that, Kirk is as good as you could possibly do. I would call Kwesi in today and say you're fired, if that's what you think.
Yeah. DB says, Judd's doing everything he can to convince himself that Kirk will be gone. Reckless speculation for Judd here. Kirk will be here at least 1 more year. It will be 1 more shot to win now and then hit the reset button. If they ever get rid of Thielen, that would be the dumbest thing ever. So him very against, number one, your thought that Kirk is indeed gone after this season, or that going into this season, and them getting rid of Adam Thielen is just it's not even a starter for this guy, DB. What do you say about to both those things? Kirk staying here for 1 more year and the idea of getting rid of him. Hometown boy, I don't know if you know this, Adam Thielen.
So on Kirk, I wouldn't be shocked if he's not gone. But I don't think that these guys are that dumb. So one is I've got more faith in the new GM and coach. On Thielen, he's back with a different contract. And if he does not accept that, he's probably gone. He can't play for what he's going to make. I don't think that's smart. But ladies and gentlemen, here's the bad news. If you really think that they fired Rick and Mike to run this thing back, if you really think Mike Zimmer was the devil, he's the source of all problems, and Spielman wasn't good too. But now they've got a great roster and it's fantastic. It was built by these guys. You don't lop off, I don't believe in football, the top half or the foundation of the building and then leave the penthouse. It comes down with the foundation. Quit trying to convince yourself that this team is fine now. There's this weird mentality. All the close games, the roster is aging. You got really nice run out of players who are going to need to be gone. And then you know what you're going to do? You're going to start anew. And it doesn't mean you're going to be bad for a long time. What it does mean is you're going to have to go buy new jerseys. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to accept this. You are going to either have to have the last name on the jersey that you have replaced with a new last name of a guy who's going to wear, let's say, 22, or you are going to just have to go to the pro shop and buy a new jersey.
All those jersey connoisseurs, Judd, though. You're not thinking of all their great
People
love
are
for their purple
people
and their
are
Vikings.
fighting the obvious. I hate when you fight the obvious, okay? Why are you fighting the obvious? Again, you don't tear down a building and you don't take the foundation out and then say, but we're going to prop that penthouse up. Now everything comes down. Boom.
Christopher says, certainly Minnesota has to pump Kirk's trade value as much as possible. But what happens if the best trade offers aren't good enough? Do they just accept it and move Kirk? Or do they blink and give Kirk his extension?
I love that question.
Great question.
Amen.
Great question from Christopher. Question of the day.
Christopher, great question. I love that question. I don't know. Because the question becomes, would they give him away? Now, I do not think this is going to be the problem. I think that there's going to be enough of a quarterback competition where if they try and trade him, and remember, Spielman and company did this last year. I think they can do it. But let's just say that Christopher's question is spot on. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Would they be like, oh my God, we can't, oh my God, we can't get a thing for Kirk. Let's extend him. I don't know. I honestly have, that is one of the most interesting questions, at least, to play out, but I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to just take diminishing returns for him. Like, if their floor is we have to get at least a top 40 pick. So let's say, it's a second-round pick, but it could be a potentially high, second-round pick. It's called a top 40 pick. But if only teams are saying we can, given his cap hit and given where we're at, given what you're coming from a leverage standpoint, we can only really give you a fourth.
Yeah, that's
like,
exactly.
What if a team says we can give you a fourth, and if you want, a second next year, all right, conditionally maybe we can figure out a way if we make the playoffs and you can get our second round pick, right? Like you can figure out something like that. But I think they're pretty set on what they want to do with Cousins. I think they are. I think those plans can still change as of today. And I know Kevin O'Connell hasn't formally been introduced as head coach because of semantics.
But he's got an idea.
But I think they already kind of know what they want to do with Kirk. So therefore, if they do shop him and they're just not getting what they are even close to having a floor of,
it's a great question.
I don't think they move him. I don't think so
but
either.
Do they eat the cap hit then? And because they don't want to extend him?
Mm-hmm.
Do they panic and extend him? I mean, we flat out, when it comes to Kwesi and O'Connell, we don't know enough about them.
Right.
Like, I've got assumptions and I've got thoughts, and there are probably tells in how their previous franchises dealt with players, but we don't know. In fact, Chris's question was so good that I'm going to make that the Surly question of the day, because Chris deserves a cold Surly, and let's see, I'm going through the list from the first Surly variety pack of 2022, Declan Goff, and I'm going to give him the traditional, the home run, my deep down in my heart, my favorite, Surly Furious, the best IPA around. That is our Surly question of the day. It's such a good question that it made me want to have a Surly, and certainly not Surly. Thank you, Christopher.
Great question, Christopher. All right, Art says,
yep.
Who is the magical rookie quarterback who will feed JJ the ball for another 1,400 yards next year? And how do we know that O'Connell views Cousins the same way you do, Zolgad? What if he sincerely wants to keep Kirk? Answer his first part here first, Judd, because we've kind of touched on a lot about the latter part. Does Justin Jefferson approve of a rookie quarterback coming in, and can Justin still get his special amount of targets and yards if there's a rookie quarterback brought in?
Justin Jefferson would far more approve of a plan that the Vikings could lay out for him for a path to a championship, which they are not on right now, not with Kirk. They're never going to win. Justin Jefferson's not a dummy. He knows full well, they are never going to win a Super Bowl with Kirk, okay? Keep in mind, there's this weird, why do people believe players? Justin Jefferson, I guarantee you, is still ticked, and he should be, that he came up, 17 yards short of Randy Moss's record. That is a name of royalty, right?
Correct.
Like, who does not want to break one of the GOAT's records, okay?
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson knows full well that if he had a quarterback who had any moxie at all, he was standing open in the end zone for a touchdown. He would have set the record, but instead Kirk locked in on, and this guy's good, I like him, no insult to him, KJ Osborne, because that was the play. You're telling me that Justin is going to say you can't. Well, what? Kirk Cousins gone? Never. Come on, folks. I love you, but it is naive to think that Justin Jefferson is in love with Kirk. It's not the case. It's not the case, and Justin Jefferson's too classy and too smart. He ain't going to come out and say that. But the fact is next year going to be great with a potential young developing QB? I have no idea. Does the page need to be flipped? Like, what are you holding on to? Jefferson's going to be upset. He's already upset. You didn't get him a damn record. So, come on.
Yeah, I love JJ. His passion's on awesome, man, but I think he'd be okay with it.
And he's but I mean, he's never going to come out and say, Kirk Cousins has no guts.
Right.
Not going to say that. He's too smart.
No, not at all.
But the guy, again, landed 17 yards short of a record he wanted badly. And that was the doing, as far as I could tell, of two people. Zimmer, who's gone, and Cousins, who, again, Justin Jefferson right now, Dex, if you make the short drive from our studio here to U.S. Bank Stadium, Justin Jefferson is still standing open in the corner of the end zone waiting for that damn ball.
Yep.
Everyone else went home. He's like, I'm still open. Like, there's this weird fixation on, oh, you can't take Kirk away from him.
Sean says Matt Stafford was traded before the Super Bowl last year, January 31st. So it's open season for trades now.
Correct.
This is the high point of Kirk Cousins' quarterback value before free agency and before the draft. Joe, would you argue that
Correct.
Cousins' value right now is at its absolute peak?
Yes. This time period is perfect. Stafford trade, the 2018 Alex Smith trade for, at the time, a third-round pick from Kansas City to Washington. Same week. Super Bowl week. Yes. This is the time to tell Shefty, we will never trade Kirk Cousins. Are you crazy? You get it out there. Kirk Cousins is going nowhere. And you can't quote me, but you can certainly leak it. Yes, it's all a game, but that question or point is spot on. We are in open season. So officially, the league year starts on March 16th. So it can't be official, but we have learned that you could certainly make trades and we can know the parameters of said trades at any time this week. Have your guard up.
Slevin says, a couple more questions here. Some great questions, by the way, so far in our comments.
This is some good stuff.
Good stuff.
Great points.
Good stuff. Slevin says, we bleeped up. I've commented on so many videos that I've wanted to get Mike McDaniel as head coach, but no interview. I was hoping he was a dark horse for us. He's going to be very great, in all caps. Kevin might be very bad for keeping 8, Kevin O'Connell that is, and ruining the franchise during the new era. I hope KOC looks hard at Mond and is pretending and telling Mike to say that. I don't know who Mike is in this scenario.
Did he mean Kwesi?
Yeah, maybe Kwesi. Kevin, yeah, I think, yeah.
So it's a comment. Yeah, I don't know enough about
this McDaniels guy.
I don't know
Mike
enough
Daniels,
about him.
excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's smart. He's been like Kwesi affiliated with some good people. I don't know enough. I guess the question, as Patrick Royce talked about on Unchained, is can you put a guy who's not played and doesn't seem to have a big presence in front of a football team to lead that team? So not to be the coordinator, but to lead that team. We are about to find out. I don't know that I would have been completely on board going in that direction, though, if I was the Vikings.
You know, I'm kind of glad he landed in Miami because, number one, they have a ton of cap space to play with. I'm not as out on Tua as I feel like a lot of people in the league are. I think it's too early to write him off. That's not to say he's on trajectory to be a Super Bowl guy, but or a top 10 quarterback yet. But I think there could be something unlocked there, and Daniel probably presented something that said, hey, no, there's something here. I can unlock something with him. Or he could have said, actually, I'm going to take my guy Jimmy G and bring him here with me, and then we're just going to run what San Francisco did.
I'm not bringing Jimmy G anywhere.
Oh, my God. I can see it.
Unless I just don't care, I'm not bringing Jimmy G. No bleeping way. It's Mike McDaniels, correct?
Mike McDaniels.
McDaniels, okay.
Last one here. I always bring a Judd question because there's always comments about Judd.
And you're always trying to get me pissed off.
Mm-hmm. Tommy says Judd is a bottom feeder ex-journalist who has a problem with the truth. Judd, would you like to respond to these comments?
That's awesome. So wait,
the bottom feeder ex-journalist is fine, I think. I think you're okay with that comment.
What's the truth? I don't understand.
But you have a problem with the truth. You have a problem, I think, with maybe your reckless speculation ideas and your speculatory ideas that he thinks that that's not really the truth and that you're not recognizing maybe what's in front of you.
He's saying the teams are telling the truth and I'm not listening to
That
them.
is correct. I think that is correct. I'm assuming too, but
I'm going to take a vow today. I'm not going to insult people.
Okay. You insulted a Twins employee pretty vigorously.
It's not an employee.
On Mackey and Judd.
An owner. And I just asked what happened to his station. We've all had issues with radio stations.
Yes. He wrote my resignation papers 4 years ago. I didn't take the cheap shot.
He fired your ass. You're fired.
I was so good at the job, he paid me to leave. That's how good I was. Maybe that's what will happen with Kirk. They'll pay him to leave. I could see it happen.
Bottom feeder
ex-journalist. I think you're like that
sounds like a good description.
Band name. Your first album, Bottom feeder.
Yep.
Ex-journalist. I can see it. Comments from YouTube.
That's it?
That's it.
I thought you had more insults for me.
No, just that's the only one I brought. That was the only one I brought.
I don't know what my problem with the truth
one.
is. Like, we just disagree fundamentally. I think teams lie constantly, and some fans. See, here's the thing that I have to keep saying. Our viewers and listeners, for the most part, incredibly smart. So like, I don't want to seem like I'm dumping on them, because we've got some great ones, like really good ones. Cynical, but really smart, passionate. But there are times when people, you know how the mice get in your house from the outside.
I hate
There's
mice.
some mice that come into the show sometimes. And you got to sort them out and set the trap up. But for the most part, I appreciate and value and really like the two questions. Chris's question, great question. So I don't want to paint this with a broad brush, but I just don't believe that teams, for the most part, are telling the truth, and they shouldn't be. That's about all I have to say about that. But besides that, I'm very positive. It's a Monday, Super Bowl week. I'm very, very upbeat this week.
Yes. All right, well, that'll do it for our comments to YouTube.
You just close this thing out.
Yep.
I'm just going to smile.
Mm-hmm. Smile and wave, boys.
Boyish,
smile and waves.
Good looks.
For daily Minnesota Vikings entertainment, hit the subscribe button on this YouTube channel. We are also we have a secondary YouTube channel for other Minnesota sports topics. Mackey and Judd's Hockey Show. We talk Wolves. We talk Wild. We talk sometimes baseball's ineptitude, just to crap on them a little bit.
Screw baseball.
But if you love what you're hearing, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, tell 5 friends about Score North, and download the Score North mobile app. Yeah, just 5 friends. Judd doesn't have 5 friends, so you have to do it for him.
But they'll tell 5.
Thank you.